Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. Ooh, I like how I said that. Anyway, it is Thursday, February 5th, 2026, and today we're talking about starting market gardens and finding customers, about balancing soil disturbance and cover crops, and about stretching the muscles so you don't hurt yourself. Let's do it. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope your weeks are coming to a smooth and soft landing. You're never going to guess what's going on here. Nothing. The farm is still one giant sheet of ice with a new dusting of snow over top of it, so that's at least something different. Kids in the county have been out of school since the Monday before last because Kentucky is really good at this whole snow thing. That actually doesn't bother us or affect us really. Hannah and I, we like the kids being around, but they're getting to the point where they miss their friends and are ready to get back. Maybe by next Monday that'll happen. We'll see. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed the live yesterday. That was a lot of fun. Always enjoy that challenge. Taking farming questions on the fly. We'll try to get one of those done every month throughout the summer. And I know that time of day is not really the best for everyone, but it's really the only time that makes sense for us right now. But maybe in the future we can see changing up here or there. If you ever have questions you want to ask, though, of course, Patreon is the way to get them here to me, which is a great segue. Awesome segue into our theme for this Thursday and every Thursday. As is the tradition on Thursdays, we'll take 3 Patreon questions and see where this convo leads us. Also of note, Patreon members, your February show thread is up and running. It's up and at 'em over there at patreon.com/no-till-growers. So please feel free to get your questions in. I will need a bunch going into the growing season, so don't hesitate. That is actually quite helpful for me, so I don't have to come up with every topic for this show, off the top of my brain, which gets pretty filled up with farming and soccer season and all the things. So anyway, our first Patreon question of the day comes to us from James Webb, who writes, quote, "Good afternoon, Jesse. Bought my property 1 year ago this month. Congrats. Took the first year to get everything in order and to establish a baseline. I've got the paperwork started to begin our new venture. My question for you today is, what suggestions could you make for someone who is new to trying market gardening? And are there any areas of research to find commercial clients like restaurants other than cold calls and word of mouth? I'm going to spend my first year growing, building a list," end quote. Okay, so thank you. Great stuff here. Congrats on the farm. First, I think it's great in general that you're taking your time here, getting the business started. I recognize not everyone can do that, but if you think of a farm like a business, as you should, the gardens, the irrigation, etc., all of that is the equivalent of building a factory, right? So if someone were going to start a factory, which I recognize is not going to be the most palatable analogy for most people, but farms do produce things. They are kind of like miniature factories. But anyway, if someone were going to build a factory, they would take a bunch of time to get the infrastructure right before they started producing whatever it is they plan on producing. They wouldn't, if they wanted to be successful, just start their factory from whatever the existing infrastructure was in the building. So that sort of speaks to your first question, which is about suggestions for starting a market garden. Take your time. Best piece of advice you could possibly get. Then just map it all out with a master budget and multiple budgets for each element: growing the food, starting seeds, infrastructure, harvest, and marketing. At least those 5. You could add some other ones in there, but you need to know, or at least project, what those are going to cost you so that you know what you need to earn. You need a basic business plan with some, 2 to 5 year goals. All the basic business stuff. You have to do that. Again, market gardening is not a hobby. It is a business. A cool one, no doubt, an important one, but it's just a business, and as such, we need to follow all the other rules of starting any business, or it will fail. Full stop. And it sounds like you're kind of doing that, which is great news. As for the commercial customers thing, beyond cold calling and word of mouth, you kind of need to start with knowing what you can and want to produce to find new customers. For instance, there are probably restaurants in my area of Kentucky who would be stoked to get some local avocados, but I can't grow those here, right? Not really, and definitely not for the price they'd be willing to pay. Or for a less ridiculous example, beans. I love beans. Customers might love beans, but I can't make money on beans. It's not worth it for me to grow them. So it's important to know what you can and also what you like to grow, which will help point you in the direction of your customers. Peppers, for instance, maybe that's your crop, which, sorry, it can't be because I called it already, but let's pretend. If that's your crop, then maybe you can find some salsa makers who would be interested in bulk, which, again, yes, requires some cold calling or emailing or visiting, but that's just part of the job. When you start a farm, you are also starting a marketing department as well. There is not really a list out there of people looking for local produce, though sometimes there are aggregates that you can get in touch with and they'll help find buyers for your food. But also, one really helpful thing to do is increase your visibility, and that might mean people start calling you. One really important piece of social media advice is to play up where you live so that people in that area will follow you. We haven't been trying to grow our own farm business in quite some time, but that's one way to do it. Get people in the area to know you exist and care about the community, and they will start to reach out to you a bit more, which makes your job a little bit easier. So that could be talking about the local weather, the local sports teams, just whatever it is to kind of get people engaging with you and kind of relating in that way. Anyway, I think letting your land and interests guide you to the customers is going to be easier than going to the customers first, and then make your community aware of you and what you grow so that they will start to come to you. Anyway, I hope that is helpful to some extent. I'm sure listeners may have some other opinions, and I'd love to hear those. Good questions, and best of luck. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, tilling in a cover crop out of love. But is it actually love? We'll find out. Quite the reality show. BRB.
G'day nerds. Just want to give you an update on my pumpkins. My second round of plantings that went in there, and all the fillings, they all died. The ones that survived transplant and the corn that's germinated look really, really good. Pretty happy with those. It was a bit delayed getting stuff in because of the weather, and that's why I'm going to plant my garlic this season. Cheers.
Today's episode is brought to you by Certified Naturally Grown. Certified Naturally Grown is the grassroots certification built by farmers for farmers. C&G gives local growers like you recognition for the commitment of producing food without synthetic chemicals by assuring customers that your practices are verified. C&G's peer review inspection model keeps the cost of certification low while creating opportunities for knowledge sharing amongst a strong, supportive network of like-minded farmers. Apply today to be certified before the season ramps up. Applications processed within 7 days. Learn more at naturallygrown.org. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's second Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Patrick Daubert, who writes, quote, "Morning, wondering if you might compare and contrast simply using cover crops versus the practice of tilling the crops, green manure, in the setting of a no-till approach to soil management. Where is the balance in soil disturbance?" End quote. All right. Thank you, and here, Patrick. And so I'm assuming that we're talking about termination of the cover crops and if it's okay to till them in terms of soil health versus not tilling them in. If I have that wrong, I'm happy to do another take on this, but that's kind of how I read this one. So in the no-till cover crop management, we typically do not till the cover crop into the soil. The typical approach is to smash the cover crop down as a mulch and plant into it after it has died, either from crimping or tarping, etc. Or alternatively, you can mow it really low, rake it aside, and plant into that. Or for directly seeded crops, you might also, lightly harrow the surface and then create a seed bed after you rake off the residual materials or whatever. Now, on the flip side of that is how most other people use cover crops conventionally, in organic production at least, which is to grow the cover crop, mow the cover crop, till the cover crop into the soil, and then plant the next, cash crop in a couple weeks. And there's research that shows in some cases this is the best approach to get the most out of cover crops. For instance, for mustards and biofumigation, working the cover crop residue of those mustard greens or whatever into the soil is what provides the bulk of the protection against those pathogenic fungi. Some research suggests that working the cover crops into the soil is a better way to increase soil nutrients and some soil organic matter in certain conditions. So from the basic soil health perspective, the use of cover crops and relatively light, thoughtful tillage can be an effective way to address soil health. And indeed, many growers do till their cover crops in to great success. But there is one exceedingly major caveat, which is that, if you get a heavy rainfall shortly after tilling the mowed cover crop or within the 2 weeks that you're letting it rest, and you get some erosion, more harm than good has generally occurred. Like, you don't want to lose soil. Erosion is a big reason we actively promote no-till methods, because soil is hard to build, and in that way, it is very precious. That said, just smashing a cover crop to the ground is not always the right call either for the crops, and it makes weed management significantly more difficult because you can't just cultivate out weeds that are popping through all that mulch. Crimping the cover crop can also keep the soil, colder for longer, which can slow the season down. Some of the nutrients in the above ground biomass of the cover crops can be lost as well. So in general, I think if you're working in the cover crop residue after, like mowing it, and you're working it into the top few inches of the soil, that you just have to be exceedingly careful on the timing and work to get the next crop into the soil as soon as, that makes sense, which in the eyes of the soil is usually a couple weeks because it needs some time to digest the residue. Take a nap, rest. I'm not sure if that really answers the question, but hey, the February show thread is up over there for you or anyone else who has any follow-up questions on the subject. I'm happy to oblige. Love cover crops. Great topic. Anyway, let me know what you all think, and otherwise we will take a quick break, and then we will do a few more reps, then we'll rest, then reps, then rest. You get the idea. Be right back. 2, 3, 4.
It's the high desert and the last day in January in New Mexico. I have cover crop of barley and hairy veg, growing leeks in there, and also garlic. And then in my hoop house, I have lettuce, strawberry, red mustard, and daikon radish and kale.
Today's episode of Growers Daily is brought to you by Peaceful Heritage Nursery. If you're looking for hardy and resilient fruit trees, berry plants, or pawpaw trees, then check out Peaceful Heritage Nursery. Peaceful Heritage Nursery LLC is a mail-order nursery shipping premium quality fruit trees and berry plants across the USA. They specialize in resilient, non-GMO plant genetics for small growers. Their diverse selection includes berries, cold hardy figs, passion fruits, gumi, mulberry, and much more. They're famous for their diverse selection of premium quality grafted pawpaw trees. 5-star Google ratings and customer testimonials attest to their commitment to excellence in quality and service. Find them at peacefulheritage.com and join the mailing list. Once again, find them at peacefulheritage.com. Use the promo code NOTILL for 10% off your first order.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Tend. Farming is hard, running it shouldn't be. Meet Tend, the purpose-built platform built by farmers for farmers. Plan your season, map your farm, and track every task from seed to sale. No more spreadsheets, no more guesswork, just smart, seamless workflows. Tend adapts to your farm, 1 acre or 100. Real-time inventory, sales, labor, tracking, traceability, and analytics all in one place. You grow food, flowers, fruit, and more. Tend helps you to grow smarter. Start free today at tend.com. That's TEND.com. All right, back to the show. All right, our third and final Patreon question of the day comes to us from Rob Hazel, who writes, quote, "Hello, Happy New Year, and thanks for all the great content. Your book, videos, and podcast have helped transform my grandfather-style compacted weed-filled patch of garden to a very diverse and productive family and community plot." Awesome. Good to hear. In this cold weather of late, though, I find myself being a log, sitting around catching up on Growers Daily episodes, among other sedentary endeavors. As payback, I can tell my body is getting soft from the inactivity, and I know it will reward me with some extra back and hip aches in March and April. You have mentioned that you have a stretching and exercise regimen to help keep you in shape for farming activity. Would you want to share some specifics of your routine that you find most effective, especially for your back and hip fitness? I need some motivation, Jesse. We need a Farmer Jesse exercise video, smiley face emoji, end quote. Okay, well, first off, this is a wonderful and important question, but the world definitely does not need a Farmer Jesse exercise video. My poor mortified children. Now, I should also say, in the name of full and very obvious disclosure, I am not a trained physical therapist or chiropractor or physical trainer or anything of the sort. I studied international business in college and did not even graduate with a degree in that, or actually with a degree in anything. So please look to the pros on specific guidance on how to do anything I discuss here today if you do in fact want to do these things. All right, so I love this topic because even farmers who maintain great, thoughtful ergonomics in their farming practices are going to run into some stiffness, soreness, some general uggness at some point. This is especially true in the winter when we tend to do a lot more sitting, as there is hardly any worse activity for your back than sitting, or so says my chiropractor. So part of my thoughts on this will just be to avoid sitting as much as you can and find a way to have a standing desk in the house of some sort, and or lay down a lot and keep that lower back supported anytime you're sitting. I often roll a shirt and stuff it behind my back if I have to sit for a long time, like in a car. Now, I start there only because you can do all the best exercise in the world, but if you cap it off by 8 hours of just sitting down, you really haven't helped yourself, or at least you've set yourself up for back pain and or injury. Farmers also often think that the work is the exercise, and certainly to an extent that is true. I mean, the work of farming is very physical, it's very difficult. But it can also be very repetitive and not necessarily give you a full body workout. If you are doing a lot of hard labor, maybe a stretching routine makes more sense for you than like, some sort of physical exercise. But also a small amount of exercise can really boost your work stamina and strength, especially your core strength. So although, yes, you are getting a better workout in the fields, it can feel better, and you can, work for longer with a little exercise and or stretching complement. Now, I have done a lot of different exercises over the years, and I tend to gravitate towards those that I can do at home without going out somewhere or without weights or machinery, because as you can imagine, I don't exactly have time to head off to a gym for an hour or so. So for a long time, I just did calisthenics, which uses your body weight for resistance as opposed to weights. So think push-ups, pull-ups, that sort of stuff. And I liked that. But I found that it's good to pick a routine, even online, and just follow their, that person's workouts so you don't hurt yourself, and so that you also work all the muscle groups instead of just like working the same muscle group over and over again. Like just doing 50 push-ups a day every day is not necessarily going to get you where you need to be. And it could also lead to some muscle damage. So you want to be careful with that sort of stuff. Hannah also bought me an exercise bike from Sunny, which has been a great and relatively affordable piece of machinery. If you're going to get any sort of machinery, I can hop on there in a pinch with watch a nerdy farming video or whatever. Usually it's like a soccer video, but let's pretend it's a farming video, and ride that for 20 minutes. Great for cardio, and I find cardio is great for work stamina. The last year, however, I've also been doing maybe 5 or so minutes of yoga stretches, like specifically targeted for my lower back and shoulders. So a little cat-cow, some downward dog, sphinx, and a few others. And then at the end of the year, I was like, wait, I like calisthenics. And I need to stretch, so why don't I just do yoga instead of just like dabbling in yoga? So I started just doing a straight up like 20 to 25 minute yoga routine that Hannah recommended on YouTube. The Yoga with Adrian is the main channel I use. Shouts to Benji. And it's been absolutely amazing for the way my back feels, but also my neck, my knees, my brain, all of it. Adrian has several very simple 30-day yoga journeys that are easy enough to get started. So I guess right now I recommend yoga, but like with any stretching exercise, just make sure you're doing them correctly, really honing in on those details. It's just as easy to hurt yourself as it is to help yourself. Last thing I'll say on this is that a lot of people work out for the way it makes them look or the way they want it to make them look. However, to me, the way that working out makes someone physically looks pales in measure to the way it makes you feel. There is no comparison. Long before you see much change physically when you exercise, you will feel things change mentally and in the energy that you have. And those effects will always dwarf the effects each workout will have on you physically. When you focus on the way an exercise makes you look, it can feel thankless and distort how much clearer you're thinking, how light you feel mentally, how healthy. So in short, do it for your body, your farm, your back, totally, but also just do it for your brain and for the feels. Anyway, let me know what you all do for exercise and working out, or what has been helpful or maybe not helpful. Maybe we need a farmer yoga channel, and I'm not going to host it. I don't really know how to do yoga. I just follow what Adrian tells me. But maybe there is someone out there who does already do that or can do that. So shout them out in the comments if you would. Otherwise, Namaste Thursday. Don't forget that No-Till Growers is a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That is an easy way to help us out. Just hit that like button. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at no-tillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soul Handbook, at no-tillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you sign up in the month of February. Did I say that word right? Maybe. Anyway, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Heidi Beckwith. Beckwith, that's a fun name. Stephen Rowe, Connie, Matthew Laidlaw. Good names you all this week. Kaylin Hammett, another, it's just knocking them out of the park. And B. Neal or Ben Eel. B. Neal, Ben. Either one, both of them. Love it. So amazing signups there, y'all. So cool to see that. And so cool for our hero this week, Jones B. Flanagan, who has just arrived home with all of the footage from his hike for the Outdoorsy YouTube channel that he wants to start. But when he's reviewing the footage, he notices something he did not notice on the hike, or rather, he notices someone. They aren't in every shot, but in many of the, hiking shots, you can see a person in the woods, a man, pale with an, like an older looking hat, suspenders, brown pants. They look like they're straight up like out of the 50s. So Unsure of what's going on here, he decides to make the video and call it "Did I Just Catch a Ghost on Camera?" which is a good name. I mean, that's a good thumbnail, good name. That's how you roll on YouTube. The next day, he decides he's going to go back for another hike and see if he can't catch the ghost on film again, and that is for tomorrow on The Hitchhiker. Like that. Anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. We'll see you then. Bye.
So I